All right. Let's take a deep dive into something we all use every day, probably without even realizing how much it reveals about us. English greetings.
Oh, yeah.
You've sent me some material that analyzes common phrases, and honestly, I'm already fascinated by how much depth there is to a simple hello.
It's true. Greetings aren't just about being polite.
Yeah.
They're like tiny windows into cultural norms
Yeah.
and social dynamics.
Oh, wow.
They can set the tone for an entire interaction even before you've said anything substantial.
Okay, so we've got this script breaking down different types of greetings from formal first encounters to casual what's up moments. And the first example is something we've all probably experienced meeting someone new.
Yeah.
The script lays out the classic, "Hi, I'm Mark, what's your name?"
hmm
Followed by, of course, "Nice to meet you."
It's almost like a little dance, isn't it? A very scripted dance.
Right.
And that formality is precisely the point in those initial encounters. Think about situations where you want to make a good first impression. Business meetings, networking events, um, being introduced to your significant other's family for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
You're signaling respect and a willingness to follow social conventions.
Makes sense. But it does make you wonder how genuine those nice to meet yous really are. We've all been there sometimes. It's more out of politeness than actual excitement.
True.
Yeah.
It highlights the ritualistic aspect of greetings.
Right.
But even if it's not always heartfelt, that formulaic exchange serves a purpose.
Mhm.
It establishes a baseline of civility
Yeah.
and allows the interaction to proceed.
Okay, so we've navigated the introduction,
Right.
and now comes the inevitable follow-up question. How are you today? Now, I'll confess, I rarely expect a detailed rundown of someone's emotional state at this point.
Right. It's the classic, how are you? As a social lubricant,
Right.
they answer with good thanks, and we move on.
Right.
It's like a verbal handshake. A quick acknowledgement of the other person without necessarily opening the door for deep conversation.
But what's interesting is that the script points out there are times you genuinely do want to know how someone is doing.
Yeah.
So how do we shift from that surface level, how are you,
Mm-hmm.
to something that invites a more authentic response?
It's all about choosing the right words
Mm-hmm.
to signal your intent
Okay.
instead of the generic, how are you?
Yeah.
You could try something like, how are you feeling today?
Right.
Or how's everything going?
Okay.
The subtle change in phrasing implies a deeper level of concern
Mm-hmm.
and a willingness to listen. You're
Right.
essentially saying, I'm not just being polite, I actually care.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like choosing the right tool for the job, a quick handshake for a passing acquaintance
Yeah.
versus a longer hug for a close friend.
Exactly. And that brings us to the more casual end of the greeting spectrum where the rules of the game change quite a bit.
Okay.
We move from the scripted formality of first encounter to something more relaxed and familiar.
And here's where we see that shift in the script.
Yeah.
We go from, "Hi, I'm Mark," to, "Hey, Sarah, what's up?"
Right.
The tone is totally different, like you've flipped a switch from business mode to friend mode.
Yeah.
But what I find fascinating is that "what's up"
hmm
wasn't always so casual.
It's true. The phrase itself has undergone a fascinating evolution.
Wow.
Originally, it likely functioned as a genuine inquiry, but over time, it morphed into this almost meaningless greeting,
Okay.
a way to acknowledge someone
Right.
without really expecting a detailed answer.
Which is actually perfect for someone learning English, right?
Yeah,
Because the response can be equally casual and low pressure. Not much, just chilling.
Hmm.
Those aren't meant to be profound revelations.
exactly. They're more about acknowledging the greeting
Right.
and maintaining the casual flow of conversation.
Okay.
Of course, you could always choose to elaborate if you
Yeah.
have something specific to share,
Yeah.
but a simple not much is perfectly acceptable in most casual settings.
So we've talked about the scripted formality of first encounters and the relaxed vibe of "what's up." It's like there's a whole spectrum of greetings out there, each with its own subtle cues and social implications.
Right.
But what I'm realizing is that even with these casual phrases, there's still an unspoken set of rules, right?
Right, absolutely. And understanding those unspoken rules is crucial for navigating social situations smoothly and confidently.
Yeah.
For example, think about the context, who you're talking to,
Yeah.
your relationship with them,
Right.
the overall setting, what's up, might work perfectly with their friends,
Yeah.
but it could be totally inappropriate for greeting your boss or a professor.
So it's not just about memorizing phrases.
Right.
It's about understanding the subtle social dance that goes along with them.
Yeah.
It's like learning to read between the lines, but for spoken language.
That's a great way to put it. And the more you pay attention to these subtle cues,
Mm.
the more you'll start to develop an intuitive sense of what's appropriate in different situations. It's like unlocking a secret code to fluency and confidence in English-speaking environments.
Okay, so we've covered introductions and casual greetings,
Right.
two very different styles of interaction.
Right.
But even the most casual conversations eventually have to end.
Yeah.
And that's where things can get a little awkward, especially for someone new to the language.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, the script gives us some helpful phrases for navigating those exits gracefully.
Okay.
We see examples like, "It was great talking to you,"
Yeah.
and "Let's catch up soon."
Mm-hmm.
Those feel so much smoother than just abruptly saying bye.
They really do. And that's because they signal that you value the interaction, even if it was brief.
Right.
You're not just ending the conversation, you're
Yeah.
leaving a positive impression
Okay.
and potentially opening the door for future connection.
And that "let's catch up soon" part is interesting because it's
Right.
not just a goodbye, it's a subtle promise to reconnect.
Right.
It's like saying, this interaction was valuable enough that I want to continue it.
Yeah. Precisely. It keeps the door open for future interaction without setting anything in stone.
Right.
It's a way to express goodwill
Yeah.
and maintain a sense of connection.
So we're seeing how even these seemingly simple phrases for ending a conversation can be layered with meaning.
Right.
And it makes me wonder, are there other ways to end a conversation gracefully, depending on the situation?
Absolutely. It was great talking to you, and let's catch up soon are excellent starting points.
Okay.
But there are even more nuanced ways to say goodbye depending on the context.
Mhm.
For example, if you're talking to someone who seems busy,
Yeah.
you could say, "I'll let you get back to it."
Okay.
Or if you want to acknowledge something specific you discussed, you
Yeah.
could say, "I really enjoyed hearing about," and then whatever they talked about.
So once again, it's not just about memorizing phrases. It's about choosing the right tool for the job
Mm-hmm.
and adapting to the specific situation. It's like having a whole toolkit of phrases at your disposal, and knowing which one to use at the right moment can make all the difference in how you come across.
Exactly. And as you gain experience and confidence, you'll find that choosing the right phrase becomes more intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
You'll start to anticipate what the other person might say or do,
Yeah.
and you'll be able to adjust your language accordingly.
Which brings us back to the secret code idea. It's like you're learning to decipher the unspoken rules of social interaction. And with each conversation, you're getting better at reading those cues and responding in a way that feels natural and authentic.
That's a great way to think about it. And it's a skill that can benefit you in countless ways, both personally and professionally.
Right.
After all, strong communication skills are essential in almost every aspect of life.
Yeah.
But even beyond practical applications, there's something truly fascinating about unraveling the complexities of language and discovering how even the simplest phrases can reveal so much about ourselves and the world around us.
That's what I love about these deep dives. You never know where they're going to take you. We started with some basic English greetings, and now we're talking about social cues, cultural norms, and the evolution of language.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a feeling we've only just scratched the surface. What other fascinating insights are hidden in these seemingly simple phrases?
Yeah.
We'll find out next time.
Okay. It's amazing how much we can learn about a culture just by looking at how they greet each other.
Oh, yeah.
In some cultures, for instance,
Yeah.
physical touch is a common part of a greeting, whether it's a hug, a kiss on the cheek, or even a handshake.
Right.
But in other cultures, maintaining physical distance is considered more respectful.
It's a reminder that communication goes far beyond just words. Right.
Absolutely.
It's about body language,
Mhm.
tone of voice, and all those subtle cues that convey meaning.
And speaking of subtle cues, one thing that struck me from the materials you shared
Yeah.
is how much a greeting can reveal about the relationship between two people. Think about the difference between a formal, "Good morning, Mr. Smith," and a casual, "Hey, Sarah, what's up?"
It's like choosing the right outfit for an occasion. You wouldn't wear a ball gown to a backyard barbecue,
Right.
and you wouldn't greet your boss with the same level of informality as your best friend.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of context
Right.
and how our choice of greeting can instantly set the tone for an interaction.
Okay.
But what's even more interesting is how those greetings can evolve over time as relationships change.
Right.
Think about how you might have addressed a professor or a senior colleague when you first met them,
Yeah.
compared to how you might address them now years later.
That's so true.
Yeah.
It starts off super formal, Then maybe you move to using their first name, and eventually
Yeah.
you might even find yourselves using nicknames or inside jokes as part of your greetings. It's like the greeting itself becomes a reflection of the growing familiarity and trust between two people.
Exactly. And those changes often happen organically without us even consciously thinking about it. It's like our language adapts to reflect the evolving dynamics of our relationships.
So for someone learning English, especially someone who might be new to the culture, how do they start to pick up on all these subtle nuances and unspoken rules? It seems like there's so much more to it than just memorizing phrases from a textbook.
Observation is key. Pay attention to how people greet each other in different settings.
Good.
Notice the language they use,
Mhm.
their body language, their tone of voice.
Yeah.
Do they make eye contact? Do they smile? Do they stand close together or maintain a bit of distance? You'll start to pick up patterns and develop a sense of what's appropriate in different situations.
So it's like becoming a detective of social cues, using those observations to decode the hidden messages behind everyday interactions.
I love that. And the more you practice, the better you'll become at deciphering those cues and responding in a way that feels natural and authentic. It's like learning to speak the language of social interaction. And that's a skill that can be incredibly valuable, not just for language learners, but for anyone who wants to improve their communication skills.
This has been so eye-opening. I mean, I thought I knew a thing or two about English greetings,
Right.
but I'm realizing there's so much more to it than I ever imagined. And you know what else I find fascinating?
What's that?
The way certain greetings have become almost like cultural catchphrases. Things that people instantly recognize and associate with a particular place or time period. Like you hear, "Howdy, partner," and you instantly picture a cowboy in the Wild West.
That's a great point. And it speaks to the power of language to evoke specific images and emotions.
Right?
Certain greetings become so ingrained in our cultural consciousness that they transcend their literal meaning
Yeah.
and become symbols of something larger. For example, think about the phrase aloha. It's more than just a greeting in Hawaiian culture. It represents a whole philosophy of love, peace, and harmony.
And it's amazing how those phrases can travel across cultures and languages, too.
Mm-hmm.
Think about ciao.
Yeah.
It's an Italian word,
Mm-hmm.
but it's become a common way to say goodbye in many English-speaking countries.
Right.
It's like these greetings have become little cultural ambassadors, spreading bits and pieces of different languages and customs around the world.
Absolutely. It highlights the interconnectedness of languages and cultures. And as globalization continues, we can expect to see even more of this cross-pollination, with greetings from different languages becoming increasingly common in everyday English conversation.
So it's not just about understanding the rules and nuances of English greetings. It's about appreciating how those greetings fit into a much larger global tapestry of languages and cultural exchange. It's like each greeting carries a little bit of history and cultural context with it. And speaking of history, one of the things that stood out to me from our source material is how much the way we greet each other has changed over time. Like imagine going back a few hundred years and trying to navigate a social situation using modern slang. You'd probably get some very strange looks.
That's a fun thought experiment. And it's true, language is constantly evolving, and greetings are no exception. Think about how formal and elaborate greetings used to be, especially in written correspondence. People used to write pages and pages just to say hello.
Oh, wow.
And now we have emojis and abbreviations,
Right.
which are changing the way we greet each other in digital communication.
So on one hand, we have this rich history of greetings with all sorts of formal rules and traditions.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we have this rapidly evolving landscape of digital communication,
Right.
where new forms of greeting are constantly emerging. It's almost like trying to hit a moving target.
Yeah.
How do we reconcile these two seemingly contradictory trends?
That's a great question. And I think the key is to recognize that both tradition and innovation have a role to play in the evolution of language. We can learn from the past, appreciate the nuances and formalities of traditional greetings, while also embracing the creativity and flexibility of new forms of communication.
It's like finding that sweet spot between respecting the rules and being willing to bend them a bit. And I think that's a great lesson for anyone learning English. Don't be afraid to experiment. Try out different greetings in different contexts and see what works for you. After all, the best way to learn a language is to use it to have fun with it and to allow yourself to make mistakes along the way.
But before you go off and start experimenting with every greeting you can think of, we have to talk about one more important aspect of greetings: their power to influence not just how others perceive us, but how we perceive ourselves. And that's something we'll dive into right after.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we've talked about how greetings can reveal relationships and reflect cultural norms and even evolve over time. But one thing that really struck me from the research you sent
Hmm.
is the idea that greetings can actually influence our own thoughts and feelings.
Right.
It's like the way we greet others can actually have a ripple effect on our own mood and even our self-perception.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a growing body of research that suggests our language doesn't just reflect our inner world, it actually helps to shape it.
Yeah.
And greetings, as those initial points of social contact,
Right.
play a crucial role in setting the tone for how we interact with the world around us.
So it's not just about making a good impression on others, it's about the impression we're making on ourselves.
Exactly. Think about it when you greet someone with a genuine smile
Yeah.
and a warm good morning.
Hmm.
You're not just brightening their day.
Right.
You're also signaling to your own brain that you're open to connection, that you're choosing to approach the interaction with positivity.
Okay.
And those subtle shifts in mindset can have a real impact on how the rest of your day unfolds.
So by choosing to use more positive and engaging greetings, we might actually be setting ourselves up for a more positive and engaging experience overall.
Precisely. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you start your day with a grumpy, "What's up?" mumbled under your breath, you're more likely to perceive the world around you as grumpy and unwelcoming. But if you make the conscious choice to greet people with warmth and enthusiasm, you might be surprised by how much more warmth and enthusiasm you encounter in return.
It makes you wonder if those little seemingly insignificant interactions we have throughout the day, those quick hellos and goodbyes, are actually much more powerful than we realize.
They really are. And the beauty of it is that it's something we all have control over.
Yeah.
We can choose to use our greetings as opportunities to create micro moments of connection, to spread a little bit of positivity, and to set a more positive tone for ourselves and those around us.
It's almost like we're giving our listeners a superpower, the ability to shift their own mood and influence the energy of their interactions, all through the simple act of greeting someone.
And with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Right.
But in all seriousness, I think that's a beautiful way to frame it.
Yeah.
We have more power than we realize to shape our own experiences and the experiences of those around us. And it all starts with those seemingly small, everyday interactions.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of English greetings, what's the one thing you'd like our listener to walk away with? What's that final nugget of wisdom to leave them pondering?
I'd say this. Pay attention to how you greet people. Don't just go through the motions, be present, be intentional, and use your greetings as opportunities to create genuine connection. You might be surprised by the ripple effects those small acts of kindness can have on your own life and the lives of those around you.
Beautifully said. And to our listeners out there, we encourage you to embrace the art of the English greeting experiment. Have fun, and remember, a simple hello can be so much more than just a word. It can be a doorway to connection, a spark of positivity, and a reminder that even the smallest interactions have the power to make a difference. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.